Hello everybody, my name's Kirsten. Welcome back to my channel where we come together to nerd out about the plants that we love. Today I'm going to do a very late summer plant tour and show you everything that's been happening to my plants over the growing season. I have changed rooms in that time, all the lighting conditions are different, everything basically has changed, but we've seen some excellent growth and some tragedies. So I'm going to start off here with my Alocasia zebrina, and just before I give you like a full view of the plant, I want to show you for reference. Look at that. That is just ginormous. This is a leaf it gave me this summer. I don't even think I've seen zebrina leaves this big in botanical gardens. This is so good. It's like my pride and joy. It couldn't have done like any better. I'm so excited about this leaf. But I'll just step back and show you kind of the whole plant if I can. So here it is, sort of almost in full. It's very difficult to get it in fully in shot because of the size of it. The stems are getting nice and fat and stripy and lovely. The whole thing is just doing absolutely excellently. I'm very pleased with it. So this one here is my Philodendron melanochrysum, which is doing absolutely splendidly. I absolutely love it. I'm so happy with it. Just as an update for anyone who saw my recent melanochrysum video, it has actually skipped another node on the larger melanochrysum in there because there's two. This is the larger strand and that's the smaller strand. But the aerial roots are actually attaching to the plank really well. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but basically maybe it's just trying to find strength so it can, you know, pop out a really massive, huge leaf. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen. I'm not sure that that is actually what's going to happen though. But it's looking tremendous, right? And it's got a new growth point there at the top. This is my Peperomia, which is just growing brilliantly. There's so many pups in there. I'm trying not to do too much to it. I'm hoping to just kind of care for it. I'll have to give it a bit of support on this main stem, I think, because it is sort of, they do continue to grow through the winter, but I'm hoping I can get it to flower in the spring. So I'm just basically leaving it, not doing anything too fancy and just giving it the care that it needs. Apparently they need it to get quite cold, but then also when it gets cold, they drop leaves. So it's a fine balance. So we'll see what happens there, but it's doing really good. I think it's looking absolutely lush and gorgeous at the moment. Underneath that here, you can see we have my orbifolia, which is also in pon. I transferred that about, I don't know, maybe nearly 2 months ago, almost. And it dropped a couple of leaves when that happened. It is in a self-watering pot now I don't know if you can see that. And I'm hoping that's going to really help me because I have had troubles with watering this and I find it more difficult to water than normal Calatheas and also more dramatic. If you underwater it, its leaves will like totally turn yellow and die. Whereas if you underwater other Calatheas, they won't actually drop their leaf. They'll just turn sort of more crispy. This one is very dramatic in that way. So I'm really hoping self-watering pon will help it. Also, I like pon with Calatheas too because you can keep that kind of more moist sort of condition whilst not compacting the soil, because that was another problem that I had with Calatheas in the past, was compacted soil. So I do have all of my Calatheas and prayer plants in general, Marantas and Stromanthes, all in pon now. And for me, that is the best way. Just here, I have my Calathea fasciata, which is like the darker orbifolia. It's got the red on the backs rather than the sort of like just normal green backs, and of course these dark stripes. As you can see though, I am finding it a bit more difficult. It has also moved to pon though, so since then it's been a bit more stable. This is my Alocasia Portadora, which was just a little baby. Look at that beautiful leaf. That's the latest leaf, and it's literally just giving me a new one there, which looks like it's going to be way bigger and kind of more this texture. When they first came, they were much more insipid, and now they're getting many more frills. The whole thing is a very satisfying process. And behind that above, we have my Monstera, which is there. This is like just my Monstera deliciosa, which to be fair is, you know, I know desperation, but it's giving me Burley Marks flame vibes here with this one. This stem here on this one is very pregnant with leaf, so that's great. So it's given me 2 leaves this growing season, this one here and this one here. And then before then it didn't grow for almost a year anyway, so I'm going to be satisfied with that. Here you can see my Philodendron Painted Lady, which is doing really well. And you know what, honestly, you cannot do it justice. You have to see it in person. It is so pretty in person, but it's climbed up all the way, and here you can see the sort of top leaves. It's giving me these, I really love it when it gives me these kind of splodges here, and there's another leaf that's got that. Here we go, that one there, really nice variegated yellow splodge. I think it looks so good. So, and that's got a nice leaf there pushing from the top, as you can see. Here we have my Alocasia Pink Dragon, which I love so much. Look at that, still the latest leaf. It has only given me 1 leaf this growing season, but it's flowered several times. If you look here, if you see, here are the old spent flowers, and in between is this new leaf that's coming out. So that's really exciting, but it is a very slow grower. This is one of the last ones that hasn't been transferred to pond, so I'm actually going to be doing that today along with another of my alocasias. This Philodendron mamei has been doing absolutely tremendously. Look at that there. It's given me so many big, massive leaves. That's the latest leaf. If we can just try and get everything out the way. It's doing just brilliantly. It's got another growth point there in the back, and yeah, I'm real pleased with this. So it seems to be extremely happy. Oh, and this here, I'm so excited by this. This is actually growing faster than I thought it would. My Thai Constelation this summer, this was the first leaf it gave me this summer, and it was actually the first leaf it gave me full stop. It didn't grow for like, you know, 9 months, and then gave me this leaf, and then this leaf, which was just a little bit more mature but less splodge, and now it's just recently given me this leaf. It's not fully hardened off. I don't remember any of the other creamy bits on the other leaves being as kind of yellowy as this, but I think it will probably fade down to something a bit more like that. But I'm very pleased because it's maturing, we're getting more splits in it, and that's very exciting for me. So here we have my Alocasia Polly. This I find to be quite a slow growing alocasia, I must say. It's given me a couple of leaves since I've had it, but I've had it quite a long time, so I would have expected a few more. Anyway, I mean, it's fine. It's not my favorite, but I think it will get a little bit more sort of like one of my favorites when it actually gets a bit bigger. Although I don't know where I'm going to put all these huge plants, but I'll find a way. This is a Spathiphyllum diamond. You know, I keep on calling these Spathiphyllum dominoes, but actually in the UK, well, they've all been sold to me as Spathiphyllum diamonds. So it's basically the variegated peace lily. I transferred this to pond yesterday. I actually now have 2 of them. I killed my original one, and I now have 2 replacements. So I really do love this plant though. I think it's absolutely epic, and it's got these kind of like almost entirely white leaves here, which are probably not too good for the plant itself, but they're very pretty to look at now. I'm fairly certain that it'll start coming out with some more green though, which will obviously be a bit healthier for it. Here we have my Marble Queen Pothos. I find it to be extremely slow growing, but obviously extremely pretty as well. So it's quite nice having it here next to my desk to sort of leaf gaze at. Right, so that was far too backlit by the window, so I'm taking the hanging plants down to show you. This is my Epiphyllum guatemalense, and I think it's the Montrose one, which is why this is the curly cultivar. This sort of happened in cultivation, and so it's kind of a man-made one. Normally, I believe that they are just kind of quite flat, but it's doing very well. It likes it in that window. We're getting a bit of new growth. Apparently, The fruit on this is edible and plentiful. I know that it's quite small, but it's like my goal to get it flowering and fruiting in the summer next year. So I'm going to do everything I can to keep it healthy. But I do love looking at it. It's so mad and juicy looking. I think it's so good. I'm very into this like jungle cactus now, as you will see. I also have this Cebu Blue Pothos in that window as well, which all of these were propagated from one leaf cuttings, and so I'm really happy to see this sort of getting going now. Hopefully it will start trailing really soon, which I can't wait for because I think it's just the most beautiful thing. These leaves, oh, spectacular. I've actually got 2 of these and I'll show you in the other room. There's another one and that's doing tremendously as well. So, oh look there, that's gonna start trailing shortly. And the last thing in that window is this Epiphyllum anguliger, or fishbone cactus, or rick-rack cactus, whichever you want. And this is all new since I got it a couple of months ago, maybe not that long. And I just think it's fantastic. It's growing really well. I love how the new growth comes out when it's brand new, kind of like ready, aubany. It's not sure, it's kind of much more orangey there. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see? Right. Let's get you to focus. There, that's new growth. Look how red that is. I think that's so good. I think this is making me so happy. I think I could just have jungle cactus in every room. I'm really after the fern leaf cactus next, naturally. I think this is just the coolest plant. You can't not love this plant. Again, it flowers. I believe the fruit's edible as well. I'm not sure if it's quite as tasty. Nobody's talked about it, or if it's as plentiful, but we'll see, and I will keep you updated on that. And I totally forgot about this one. This one right next to it is the Golden Enjoy Pothos. As you can see, it's much more kind of variegated than a normal golden pothos. Yeah, I mean, it's just like sunny, isn't it? It's very tropical and sunny. So I'm loving watching this grow. Slightly slower than a golden pothos, normal golden pothos, but it is still pretty fast. Yeah, I mean, it's just basically such a tropical looking pothos. So absolutely brilliant, loving it. So this is my Alocasia brancifolia pink passion, which is absolutely awesome. It gives off real palm vibes and it makes me feel so tropical. This sort of like is sitting above my desk while I work and I just feel just so tropical with this palm sort of leaf coming over me. And they are sizing up absolutely beautiful. It's so not a normal Alocasia, but what I love about it is palms can be quite tricky and they certainly need like tons and tons and tons and tons of light. This one does not need tons of light at all. Well, I mean, it needs Alocasia light, but it's not like a sort of typical palm like this would need. This one can handle like a little bit less. And I just think it's so cool. So it's called the Pink Passion because of the stems. Now, I'm not sure really that I would call these stems pink. It does occur naturally, this species in the wild, but it's got more brownie stems. The brancifolia is in the wild, but it's got brownie stems. I've never seen that. I've only seen these ones with the sort of pinky ones, but to be fair, I'm not sure how pink that is. But again, it's got all these stripes like you see on the zebrina and plants like that. So lots and lots of Alocasia features just with these absolutely epic palm-like leaves. So that is going in pond today along with the pink dragon. So this is the last little corner of this room, and here we have a Philodendron micans which I'm climbing up this trellis, and I did this from one leaf cuttings actually a year ago today from the time I'm filming this, and I know that because I actually diarised it for some reason. Anyway, so this is the growth that it's had in a year. It's never been in like the best, most peak lighting conditions for it. It's been in kind of pretty average lighting conditions. But yeah, I mean, it's looking really cool. It's looking exactly as I sort of had hoped it would. I have to train these round myself though, as the plant sort of gets bigger and grows, because it doesn't actually twist round itself. Here we have my Syngonium neon Robusta, looking pretty good. Loads and loads of new growth. You see all of these unfurling leaves here. So that's gonna sort of bush out again quickly, which is pretty cool. And finally, here is my Watermelon Peperomia, and it started to flower for me as well. It flowered quite prolifically last year, but now we're just getting sort of like one or two. I have propagations of these that are looking great. It's just absolutely pretty much doing the most, I would say. It looks fantastic. And just one more thing that actually I got a couple of days ago, which I'm super loving, is this Syngonium pink splash. And it's so cool. Or red spot. It was sold as a red spot, but they're supposed to be the same thing. However, so I got it for £14, which is sort of like averagey price at the moment. However, when I got it, it had this one here with a bit of white on it, and it's got this leaf coming out of it, which may or may not have a bit of white on it. And so if it does, then I've kind of accidentally happened upon a red spot tricolour, which would be insanely cool. I don't know if I'm just lucky. I love this leaf anyway, but wouldn't it be cool if this whole kind of like growth point turned out to be red spot tricolour? I'm not usually that like lucky though, so the chances of it being like more than just like this one-off are very, very slim. But there is no doubt that this is an extremely cool plant. I love it. I have had to move some of my larger plants onto the kitchen table. It's not ideal, I know, but it is what it is for now until I can sort of like rearrange things and find some space. This is my Philodendron gloriosum. I'm so happy with this plant. It's so amazing. I love it so much. It's probably my favourite velvet leaf philodendron. I think I love crawlers, if only I had more space for them. It has crawled over the pot though, and I will be air layering that, and in the spring I will pot it up as a new plant, hopefully with some really nice giant leaves to start it off. I know there are some little shiny bits on the leaves. I found spider mites on there. I then put some more beneficial mites on. I get them from Dragonfly. I'll put the link in the description. However, you know, they only live on the plants for so long. I would say it's a slow grower, but it's worth it. It's worth every second of it. It's so wonderful. I mean, you can't really beat a gloriosum, can you? Here's my Regal Shield Alocasia. It too is getting way too big. I couldn't fit it in my office. It's quite a wide spreading one. I think I need to put kind of a stake in there and tie it to the stake, or yeah, do something essentially, because it's extremely large, but it is rather, well, it's beautiful, isn't it? I was thinking about giving it to somebody else. However, by popular demand of like everybody else in my life, I have not done that because it is wonderful. Yeah, I pretty much love everything about this plant, but it is so big, and that is problematic. I actually think the sheen of this plant shows up better in this light, which is good. So I'm going to think about that when I actually find a place for it, but it's huge and I'm definitely going to have to do something with staking. Again, it's an allocator I have in pon. My red vein Maranta is doing brilliantly. Sorry, I'm filming this early in the morning, so it's still kind of sticking up. It's a prayer plant, so the leaves go down in the sort of afternoon and, well, throughout the day, and then go up at night. So this is quite early morning. It looks great though. It's still putting out some sort of relatively green uncoloured leaves because I propagated it again, so it's not kind of fully matured into its nice colourful self as yet. However, it still, actually I think that kind of looks funky. Growing it in pon, I will say I think I'll always do prayer plants in pon now because they do so well in it. I also think it actually helps with the crispiness and filtering the minerals out of tap water as well. But we have to give that a bit more time before I actually work out if that is in fact the case. But it is gorgeous. I love this plant. It was one of my first plants and I feel like I'm finally kind of hacked it. Well, sort of. And this is my Calathea ornata. I think this was my second plant that I got, which was like a bold move. But to be fair, I didn't know how terrible it was going to be or how difficult it was going to be. This almost died. I over-fertilized it terribly and it was in a drastically bad situation. All of the leaves were coming out almost transparent. They were burned so badly. And then winter happened last year. This plant cannot stand the cold, lost loads of leaves. So this year I put it into pot and I haven't had any crispy leaves. It's stabilised, it seems to be watered perfectly. I don't over or underwater it. It seems to be really loving its life in pond, and it's starting to look, well, it's almost at the stage that I kind of bought it in. The crispy leaves that you see are from the kind of historical problems I had, but everything else is coming out really nice and beautiful, basically. So on this shelf, we are starting with my Philodendron Brazil propagations. Look at those lovely roots there. And I've just got it trailing up because that's pretty and I want to. And it's giving me some like neon lemon lime leaves here, which, you know, it's definitely a Brazil. So I don't know why they've come out just totally lime, but I mean, I'm digging what it's putting out. Next here on this shelf, this is my Rojo Congo, which I separated out from the reverting Philodendron Birkin, and it's doing really well. It's given me this new leaf since then, and I mean, that looks just absolutely brilliant, doesn't it? Oh, I love this plant so much. Can't wait to get more of it. I'll propagate and like just have a beautiful, beautiful full pot. Oh, it's so beautiful. This is a tiny Philodendron Splendid, which is a cross between the melanochrysum and the verrucosum. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that grow, but obviously it's just a baby. Here we have an Anthurium silver blush. Gosh, it's so tiny, look, next to my finger. This is a cultivar of the Crystallinum, and it's so lovely. It's so sparkly. I think it's absolutely adorable. This is my Philodendron Birkin that was reverting, and it's got lots of little interesting things going on in there. So I might have to sort of like pull other parts out of it as well. And here we have my Philodendron mamei, which I know is like obviously not particularly kind of jagged and mamei like now, but it is just a baby and it's going to be epic. Trust me. This here is my Alocasia pink dragon, which I have grown from corm. And if you can see here, this is the difference. This is the interesting thing. I'm so glad I've got two happening. So this has got a new leaf coming through, and the pink dragon is a cultivar of a dual Alocasia, and they seem to grow caterpillars for their new leaves. Here on my dragon scale, it's got, you know, a leaf just popping out there at the top of this, out of the top of this caterpillar. Sorry, I've just watered them, which means they're kind of like sweating at the back. If you can see, that just happens just after you water them. Here is my variegated Alocasia. Look at that beautiful leaf. And it's given me a new one. This is one of the larger Alocasias. I know it's tiny now, but it is a, you know, one of the largest Alocasias you can get. That's such a gorgeous leaf, isn't it? And that new leaf there is coming out of, let me see, can you see that properly? Yeah, coming out of a petiola sheath, right? And if you look at this dragon scale Alocasia, it has this new leaf here, which is coming out of a separate caterpillar, and the leaf is just sort of emerging there from the top of the caterpillar, and I find that to be very interesting. So the dual Alocasias seem to come out of caterpillars. That's so tangled. Right, okay, cool. That's looking great, isn't it? It's in the 2-leaf squad at the moment, which often happens when they're babies, so don't worry, but it's got another leaf coming out, and I think that those are relatively healthy. Here is my silver dragon. This is doing wonderfully as well. This is a new leaf that has just come out. That's the latest leaf. They're so defined and lovely. When I think about when I last kind of showed you guys my dragon, I might actually insert what they looked like when I first got them, because they were just so juvenile, so juvenile. And this is real cool. So this is my begonia corner, and so this is a Begonia erythrophylla. It is one of the first kind of cross cultivars of begonias. I forget what it's a cross of at the moment, but I'll probably put it at the bottom of the screen. It's great. When the leaves come out, I don't know how much that shows, but they come out quite sort of burgundy. And if you look at the back, they are properly red, like not a little bit red. They are extremely red, and I just think that this is the coolest plant. I love it. It's so up my street. It's got like this little like secret back, peekaboo secret back, but it looks like just glossy and gorgeous. I've just moved my Milano Bellata to the front. Now I got this a few months ago, and naturally it, like being a begonia and a rare sort of picky begonia, it killed off most of its leaves. These bits all like dried up, and it absolutely just hated life here. However, this is my proudest moment. Look at that. That is a baby leaf it's giving me in my conditions. So it's going to be able to rough the storms because I'm not like supplementing its humidity that much. There is a new leaf that's also about to come out. And there's just like a few coming out. But is that not just like the cutest thing in the world? I'm so happy with that. I'm really happy that I'm getting it to grow in my conditions because I was very concerned. I was like, why did I buy this plant? I'm such an idiot. I don't have the conditions to care for it. But yeah, no, begonias, I mean, not all begonias, but typically with me, they like die back massively when they come into my home because they've been in these perfect conditions for them. And then when they grow new leaves, they come in much more robust. And so, yeah, it killed off most of its leaves, but it had enough here and it held onto them for long enough so that it could power through and give me some new growth there at the back, which I'm so pleased with. Next here we have my pink princess, just pushing a new leaf. I have of course knocked one off before that because that's just what I do. The last sort of pink leaf to come out was pretty spectacular though. That's also got this beautiful splodge. So yeah, I'm enjoying the pink princess more so than I thought I would. Behind that we have a Monstera adansonii. I literally had like 4 cuttings of this and they've, you know, all rooted and started to grow, and so I potted them up yesterday. Here we have a Tradescantia zebrina looking excellent. I mean, the zebrina is really the only Tradescantia sort of variety that I particularly love. You know, it's just bold and beautiful. And this is my baby Philodendron ring of fire looking absolutely gorgeous. But I mean, obviously, again, it doesn't have any of the kind of jaggedy edges, and it's only got little bits of variegation. But the cool thing about this, and it tends to be the way I go, is that it has stable variegation, so it will always give you like a little bit of variegation, if not a lot. It doesn't go away like other plants, and that makes me happy because I get far too stressed out by unstable variegation. This, oh, I love this so much. I think it's so kooky and weird. This is a Peperomia Hope. It's quite like Hoyery, which like the leaves are so sort of thick and firm, and it just has like this Hoya vibes, although to be fair, Peperomia flowers are no way near as nice, but I just think it's just kooky and weird. And yeah, I'm just absolutely loving the vibes this puts off. This is my Alocasia Cuprea Red Secret, looking brilliant. There's a new leaf, as you can see. It looks so good. I'm really, really enjoying this plant, more so than I thought I would. I wasn't really into the Red Secret before, but since having it and since it's sort of like getting more and more kind of defined, yeah, I see what people are into about it. This is my Tradescantia quadricolor. It's not flowering today, but most days it kind of puts, not every day, but most days it puts out a new flower from, oh, it's focus. Okay, it's not really focusing. I'll try and get a better shot of that, but basically most days it puts out a flower from here. I do have a picture I'll show you, and it did put one out from there as well. It's very pretty though, the quadricolor. It's the zebrina quadricolor, and it's getting all of these new growth points off the sides, sort of, that's just come out of there. I bought 2 cuttings, they gave me 3, and that was really awesome. I like the way that they're just like quite actively growing out of the sides. You know, you've got all of these little new growth points here which are going to be a stem. Yeah, it's surprising. It's definitely a fast grower. I've kept the zebrinas in soil. I feel that that's what they want the most. I sense it. This is doing very, very well, probably because there's usually lights on here. But this is my other Cebu Blue Pothos, which I have in pon. Not sure if that's particularly necessary. I will actually probably put this in soil. But this is cool because all of these were grown from node cuttings. Like you can probably just see, can you see there? One right at the front. They were all grown from just nodes on the stem. I put them in a prop box and that is what they gave me, and I'm very happy with that. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And here we have my lovely Alternanthera Party Time, the Party Time plant. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't love this plant. Still got it in spag. I am going to keep it in spag all through the winter because that's how I know to look after it, and winter's obviously a tricky time. But it's so, oh, look at the pink it's putting out. I mean, it's just astonishingly beautiful. Astonishingly beautiful. And here we have my lovely, lovely, lovely Syndapsis pictus exotica / Trebi. I think the exotica is the same as the Trebi. I bought it as an exotica, but I see now that in the UK they're all of these massive leaved ones are sold as the Trebi, so that's interesting. And here we have my Philodendron Brantianum, which is just trailing on the side of this plant shelf, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's doing very well. I chopped it back and took a bunch of cuttings, and it took a while to start growing again. Here are the cuttings, and there they are rooting. I took them quite a while ago. They are very nice. I do like them. Next to that is my lemon lime Maranta, and it was flowering recently, which was very pretty. Well, I mean, they have very insignificant flowers, but because of the striking foliage, the flowers actually look extremely pretty. I think it's such a nice contrast. It's doing very well. I have it in pon, and it seems very happy in that. Behind that, I have the crocodile fern. And it definitely is a slow grower. It likes way more humidity than the blue star fern, which is another one I had, and sort of other ferns that I've had. I imagine like not quite as much humidity as the maidenhair fern. It is easier to water though. It's quite tolerant of watering habits, but it's very interesting. Quite a slow grower. I would love to make it massive. And this here is my Epiphyllum pinnatum variegata, which is sort of growing tremendously well. Well, I say tremendously well. It's quite slow. But I mean, I'm liking the variegation that it's starting to put out. Real nice, pretty variegation. Although it's quite creamy and not elbow. I don't know why this is. Maybe it's something to do with the fertilizer I'm using. I'm using liquid gold leaf. Maybe it makes it golden. But I think it's still very pretty nonetheless. Maybe that will actually go more white over time. I don't know. But I mean, it's lovely. I'm obviously growing it up here. I do have intents on eventually growing it quite big and getting those nice split leaves. Hopefully that will work out for me. Next to that, I've just got these propagations of Peperomia argyreia. I've got them in sphagnum moss, and I've got this one here in sphagnum moss too. Isn't this pot really cute? Anyway, yeah, they're in sort of sphagnum moss, doing well. And I will again probably keep them in sphagnum moss all winter. They're doing fine. I might, I don't know, gift them or separate them and swap them or something, I don't know. I would say they are not the easiest peperomia, but they are pretty fun. They're kind of like fun enough that they make the work worthwhile, if that makes sense. And then finally here we have this Philodendron Florida Ghost, looking great, and the leaves are maturing. That's the latest leaf. They don't stay kind of white for very long. As you can see, this is well on its journey to green, and it's not even hardened off yet, but it's getting very nice definition on it. I just think it's beautiful, and actually I quite like it when it's this sort of minty colour. I think I would just like to have the Florida in itself because the shape is just, it's just so cool. There's nothing not cool about that. Yeah, so it's doing very well. It seems to have kind of got itself together and settled in my care. And yeah, I'm really happy with it growing here up against the plant shelf. I think that's just going to look absolutely great as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally here on the bottom of the plant shelf is this begonia, and it is very strange, isn't it? This is the Begonia U614. It is an, well, I mean, it's not unidentified. They've identified it, but they haven't properly kind of described it. It's a recent discovery. It was discovered like less than 20 years ago. I think it was like really, really recent in Vietnam. It's got very thin leaves, and I mean, they're just like the ends just crisp off all the time. If you underwater it, this happens. Basically, and it's really easy to do. But I love how kind of like metallic-y the leaves are, and these kind of red margins are great. Look at the back of that. I think that's so interesting. And again, it's these kind of like weird mad leaf shapes as well. I think it's the American Begonia Association. They developed this kind of system for all of the unidentified begonias because they keep on being discovered. There are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of begonias, and there's so many being discovered that they can identify as definitely begonias, but you know, it takes time to actually study them and name them officially and properly describe them. So until then, they have this kind of unclassified or unidentified or whatever that stands for rating, and this is U614, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it, but it's not exactly easy care. And this is another little plant nook that I've got going on. It is beautiful. Here we have my golden pothos, and if you see here, it's given me an actual half moon, which, well, almost half moon. But you don't often see that on a golden pothos, so I'm pretty chuffed with that. It's mainly reverted, to be fair, but put it this way, it's pretty dark green, but I love it anyway because, you know, pothos is, I mean, if you filled your house just with pothos, it would look absolutely stunning, no question. This is my Stramanthe Trio Star, which is in self-watering pond, and it's doing really well in there, and I think it looks really nice up there. Now, this Syndapsis Pictus argyreus has actually been having a little bit of trouble. You might be able to see there are a few sort of like yellowy, browning leaves, and I left part of this on. Let me just show you. I left this here on because I wanted to sort of show you what had happened. I couldn't really understand why all the leaves were turning yellow and why these stems were even like going brown. I was like, what's wrong with my plant? There's no pests, I don't get it. And it's this alarm clock here. Sorry if it's flickering. Gosh, it seems like a rave in here. It's one of those alarm clocks that basically lights up and slowly and wakes you up as if it's the sun waking you up in the morning, but it gets very, very hot. I didn't realize that until a couple of days ago. So that is why everything has been burning off. And so I can't actually use it until I can find a place to put it that doesn't also have plants there, but also makes me get out of bed in order to do it, because I have to get out of bed in order to sort of wake up, and yeah, it's a whole thing. And then here I have my Begonia maculata whitei, which is cool and getting really nice. I need to actually get a cane and kind of hop that one up as well, but I think it's like got a nice shape at the moment. It's very pretty. I like this one. It's such a sort of like bubbly little one, and I think it looks so great in this little cauldron. Lovely healthy leaves. This is another one that basically died back completely when it came into my care, and now has some leaves that are tolerant of my conditions. This is my little Alocasia plant corner. This is my Alocasia lauterbacchiana, and I know it looks beautiful, right? It's in pon. I recently transferred it. I had a bit of a rough time on the transfer, and I don't know if like the rough time just like sung out to all of the pests of the world, but it's currently come down with spider mites. It appears to be the only one that has come down with spider mites, but it certainly has come down with spider mites, and that's problematic for me. And so I have to, after I've filmed this, properly pest treat it. I'm going to use some like neem oil, and then I've got some beneficial insects that should be arriving in about a week's time. So yeah, that'll be it. But the only problem is that that is obviously touching my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, which obviously will definitely have spider mites all over that as well. So I got to deal with both of them at the same time. However, they're both looking fantastic, and the spider mites don't seem to have done too much damage, but they are crawling all over. It's a weird one because this is a very leathery kind of alocasia. I know alocasias are quite susceptible to spider mites, but you know, typically the leathery ones don't seem to have such an issue. Well, because they're harder to chew and harder to get the chlorophyll out. They like the kind of thinner leaved ones, but anyway. So yeah, got to deal with that. The trials of being a plant parent. And this is another window, which I don't clean very often. Don't judge me. So I have to show you the window ones one at a time because they are so backlit. This is my Anthurium undrianum. It's looking absolutely brilliant. This is the Hot Lips variety, and yeah, I mean, these are fun, aren't they? I highly suggest that people pick up the undrianums just because it's such an easy way to get a pop of colour, and they're so odd. You know what I mean? These flowers are so odd. But yeah, absolutely loving that. Doing very well. This is my Philodendron Prince of Orange, which has grown, like, look at the size of that leaf. Oh my goodness. When I think about it, this was something that I got free, and it was like so little and itty bitty, and now it's growing into a proper Prince of Orange, and I love it. Now, I'm so happy with this. It's such a slow grower, but it's actually trailing. It's actually trailing. I can't believe it's trailing. And it's got a new leaf there. This is the slowest growing plant, but it's so beautiful. This is the Scindapsus trubii Moonlight. Anyone who's got it knows how slow this is. It is so slow, but it's so beautiful. Oh, I can't get over that. Anyway, and this is my Enjoy Pothos, which I am enjoying. I think this looks really great, sort of pouring out of this jug here. I love it so much. And it's got such a weird sort of like structure. So these are so sort of thick and stiff. Yeah, I do love the Enjoy Pothos. And this here is the mother plant of my Philodendron micans. I absolutely love having it here. It's so gorgeous hanging down by the side. And if you look here, see there, they're all growing up. And I'm going to trail them across the curtain rail, so that'll look really good. But it's going really far down as well, so I'll probably have to trim that soon. But that's fine because I've got plant swaps to do, and there is always somebody who needs a micans cutting. This is my Begonia Bowery Tiger. It is absolutely brilliant, isn't it? And it's got the red on the back of the leaves, so it kind of glows through the light having it against the window. Or the light glows through it rather, having it against the window. And I just think it's so satisfying. It's wonderful. But I mean, I absolutely need to like trim it now. It doesn't need a new pot. Its root system is perfectly happy in this size pot. It's just getting so overhanging, which does look kind of cool. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but I won't be hanging it next to the window in the winter because it will just absolutely... They can't stand the cold. And the last one that hangs in this window is my Saxifraga stolonifera, however you say it, I'm not sure. And that's just like doing brilliantly. I shall be swapping these shortly. These will be going out in plant swaps because they are ready to go and make somebody happy with a new plant. I do love this. It's just absolutely so weird. So that's it for today's plant tour. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see any care videos on any of the plants that I've showed, just drop it in the comments which one you want to see. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. Have a great day. Cheerio.